And it allows a chopping state and not just real bad-minded training. And the bed wetting stitches tell the federal bitches you better mind your own business. And Max make me defenseless. Empty 30 from the K and self-defense is guaranteed to leave you senseless.
Private versions of the FDA, the SEC, and all of the alphabet soup government agencies would evolve. You can see this already with things like Consumer Reports. Consumer Reports goes out and tests products and says these are the safe products, these are the products that have defects, these are the products that you should stay away from. You would see a lot more of these private agencies evolve in the marketplace, and what would happen is they would have to compete with each other based on the credibility of their information. In the private market, these Consumer Reports type of agencies would have a market incentive to guarantee the integrity of the information that they produce. Otherwise, word would get out that they produce bunk information or that they can be bought off. That damages their credibility. People stop going to that agency. One of the other problems with government regulatory bodies or government consumer protection bodies is that every time they screw up, the excuse is always that they didn't have enough money, they didn't have enough manpower. FDA misses the boat on drug safety, so they get a bigger budget. In the private world, it doesn't work that way. If you fail to do your job, you get fired. And if a private consumer reports agency, if they fail to do their job, they go out of business. Taxes were unconstitutionally used to outlaw marijuana and enact forms of gun control because the people who wanted to achieve this knew that they did not have a constitutional route for doing so. They came up with the idea that there are just certain things in society that are too important for the Constitution to get in the way. So what they did was they said that you can have your marijuana, you can have your firearms, but they're taxed, and you have to have this stamp proving that you've paid the tax. And then they conveniently issued no stamps. It would be synonymous today with state legislatures saying that you can possess cigarettes if they have the little stamp that's on the bottom of every pack that they have today, but then they conveniently get rid of the stamps that prove that the tax was paid.
Taxation is sometimes referred to as theft because it involves the taking of property where both sides do not voluntarily agree. Taxation cannot happen without coercion.
911.
Hello. You've reached the Municipal Department of Benevolent Protection. All circuits are busy. Please press 1 to turn in your neighbor, or stay on the line to be transferred.
Happy afternoon, sir. This is Johnny Patel. So good to be servicing you. What is your situation, Okurfluffle?
How can't you help me? I need somebody to help me right fucking now. They're trying to take my health food store. They're trying to take everything I'm worth. All I do is help people. All I do is make people healthy. I give people crystals. And some organization like ERS or some shit is trying to fucking take this all away from me. My money, my livelihood, everything. You gotta help. You gotta send somebody over here. RoboCop, the CSI dudes, anybody!
Just pay your taxes. Goodbye.
When I buy something from a provider, that provider is voluntarily agreeing to give me whatever I'm buying from them, and I'm voluntarily agreeing to relinquish my money in exchange for what they're giving me. When it comes to taxation, that voluntary exchange does not exist. The government decides that you will pay X amount of dollars for X service.
Would you call it feather a tax collector like they did in days of old? Would you call it feather a tax collector for breaking and stealing all your gold?
However, this doesn't involve a bargaining process between the government and the person being taxed. It's just the government saying so.
I have seen the partners of the company have to spend a lot of money paying the state tons of money just to stay open, basically.
Taxation is essentially taking property from you. It doesn't matter that they're promising to provide a service. It would still be theft if I knocked on your door and promised to protect you from vandals and then demanded money for it. The mafia does this and it's called a protection racket. But when the government does it, it's called public service.
We do have to pay sales tax as we have a retail sales license. The state finally required all dispensaries, grow operations, as well as edible centers to apply. And for us, that costed around $7,500. And then we also have 2 grow centers as well, which are $1,250 each. And every year, we're supposed to be paying and applying to become a dispensary as well. So that's going to be like $10,000 every year. And the more patients you have, the more you have to pay. 3 different brackets, and the top one is $18,500. kind of money-heavy industry. The state wants their chunk. Every patient has to also pay $90 to the state in order to be on the registry. So that's just to get medicine. In order to help you, you have to pay $90 just to the state, just for them to agree that you might need that medicine.
Taxation through citation is mine. And I made it up a long time ago, because a long time ago I got sick and tired of the taxation that is being dished out by our patrol officers all across this country. You highway patrol officers that sit there and write 15, 20, 25 tickets a day, you're doing nothing but being a tax collector. That's a tax on the people. It is ridiculous. It's a violation of the 8th Amendment. And you, sir, you, Mr. Peace Officer, you swore an oath to uphold and defend the United States Constitution. Yet you think you can violate that Constitution without any repercussion, and yet issue these tickets all day long to people who haven't done anything close to what you have done in violating your oath. That's perjury.
No, I don't mind the government checking my emails on the interwebs, tapping my phone and whatnot. I mean, they're just keeping me safe from drug dealers, terrorists.
You hate authority, but you love government. You hate cops, but you love government. What the fuck?
And anybody on the conservative right side, I assume they all build bombs and live in shacks and write manifestos.
Democrats want to melt your guns. Republicans want to burn your books. Democrats want to take away your internet and your pot. Republicans want to take away your dildos and your pot.
Of course we need the government. Without them, how else would we have electricity? Or running water? Or air to breathe? Or, I mean, how else would we solve forcibly the injustices of the world?
We'd solve the problems with the opposite of force, with free thought, with free markets, and free men.
But.
In the absence of government regulatory bodies, it's still possible to get clean water, clean air, non-toxic food. I mean, human beings received these things, they found these things for thousands of years before the FDA came along.
Had I had to keep taking the narcotics that they kept prescribing me over and over again, I wouldn't be able to function. I wouldn't be able to talk to you right now, because right now I would think there were 6 of you standing in front of me.
If the government was not involved in their regulatory business, there would be a lot more competition in the marketplace. Take the FDA, for example. Any player in the game who can't afford to jump through the FDA's hoops, who can't afford to hire all of the lawyers involved and play the game, their drugs don't make it to the market.
See, they won't allow her to have medical marijuana, but they'll allow her to put interferon in her body. Interferon is a very, very harsh drug that goes throughout the whole entire body and physically changes the whole entire body.
Whereas without those, consumers would be much more informed. They wouldn't be relying on an FDA seal of approval, which means they wouldn't be buying dangerous drugs like Vioxx that ended up causing serious health problems, but was considered acceptable because it had the FDA's seal of approval, so people thought it was okay.
It's been here since plants inhabited the earth. Vicodin, that's human created, that's chemically created, that's not natural. Putting a pill in, you don't know what's in it. Here you can open up a jar, you can sniff it, you can smell it, you can touch it, you can look at it, you know exactly what you're getting.
The government cannot protect anyone from anything, much less from themselves. It's not physically possible, and it certainly is incredibly destructive the more they try.
They sent my 7-month-old son a letter saying I was dead, and thank God he can't read. But needless to say, I was a little bit pissed.
Basically, I was just sitting in my house, chilling, hanging out, and some kids set a couch on the side of our building on fire. 2 police officers followed the firefighters inside. He takes all of our statements about the fire, kind of making it sound like we were the ones that set the couch on fire. He turns to me and says, "Miss Flager, is there anything in your house that we need to know about?" Didn't know any of my rights, so I was just honest with him, and I was like, "Well, yeah, there is." And then he asked if we had any weed, and I said, "Yeah, probably just personal amounts." So I went in the room and I was giving him all our bongs and everything, and from there he basically was just like, "I need you to turn around and put your hands behind your back." And he was like, "I have enough here to charge you with felonies, but since you were cooperative and stuff, I'm I'm gonna drop it down to 2 misdemeanors, like he's, cutting me a break, pushed me up against the car, and I was just in my freaking shorts and my pajamas and my slippers. He had the handcuffs on me so tight that my fingers starting to turn purple, and I didn't have hardly any circulation left in my hands by the time we got to the jailhouse. My grandma and my uncle are judging me for it, and I have grandparents all over that have read it in the newspapers and plastering my face all over the news, and making it seem like I'm just some kind of big old drug dealer, and I just like to sit in my house and chill and smoke pot.
How can you tell a good law from a bad law? Since laws dictate action and are backed by action, it's the same as telling a good act from a bad act. Any action is bad if it forces anyone to do anything. Any action is good if everyone involved is involved voluntarily.
The government has no right to protect us from ourselves. Even dueling should be legal. It's voluntary.
Regulations are some fake laws. Instead of they killing all the real crimes, the flipping dimes will get you real time. It's a pity that they skew the difference. Schools ain't cures, for sure. They always work against us. I'm cool with you dueling, much more cool than public schooling. To duel is voluntary, schools are part-time prison. Unlike a dual, school is not your decision. Break, you know what else isn't? Rape.
Public schools are the ultimate tool of the politicians and the do-gooders to take control of our children's lives and souls and bodies. They are slavery factories.
Well, public schools, which I call government schools, are bad in the fact that they teach the doctrine of the day. Whatever people feel that whatever values they should impose on others, that's what they're teaching. It goes a whole lot more than the 3 R's. Probably half the school day could be composed of innuendo, slanting the news, and just general information that the kids don't even realize they're picking up. Trust me, I've had 2 daughters raised in the California public school system, and they are typically what you might expect a result of 12 years of public education in California.